Welcome to the Healthy Investor Podcast with Bob Mastroianni, where you and I will learn from successful real estate investors, entrepreneurs, and other highly driven individuals about their journey and the healthy habits and routines that play an integral part of their growth. All right, welcome back to the Healthy Investor Podcast. Today I have with me Dr. David Iglewicz, a pediatric dentist, graduated from Rutgers University in 1997 with a degree in biomathematics. He then went on to dental school at Temple University School of Dentistry. His goal was to treat children exclusively with integrity and compassion. In keeping with his mission, he went for a specialty degree in pediatric dentistry that was completed in 2003. Upon graduating, he joined Children's Dental Health Associates, where he was able to carry out his mission as well as become an integral part of the success and growth of the company. He was part of a team that grew the practices from 3 offices to 15 offices and 2 surgical centers, ultimately leading to a successful merger with a private equity firm in 2016. David was also passionate about investing. He started with investing in the market and received decent returns, but was never very happy with high volatility. He wanted more control of his assets. So in 2017, he became intrigued with real estate after reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He dove in headfirst in 2019 and had already invested in 865 doors. Wanting to increase his knowledge, he joined a coaching program headed by Rod Cleef. In 2020, he started a multifamily mastery meetup based out of Malvern, Pennsylvania, and invested in 67 units in Knoxville, Tennessee. In 2020, he also closed on 336 units in Winston-Salem. In 2020, he also closed on 100 units in Lake City, Florida. And then in 2021 was the year with multiple acquisitions in Greensboro, North Carolina, Lexington, Kentucky, Columbus, Ohio, and Atlanta, Georgia. As of today, in 2022, David has 2,000 doors under management. He's also a father of 2, married to Sandy, his college sweetheart, and he won 2 national masters titles in track cycling. He's an avid exercise enthusiast and health enthusiast. Average. And he's a coach and soon to be author. Dr. Iggy, my friend, it is so great. It's an honor. And I'm very excited to have you on the show today. How are you?
Oh, well, thank you. You know, it's funny. You read the bio, but when you're not used to someone else reading the bio, and I'm like, oh, look at all that stuff. Look at that guy.
You're like, hey, I'd like to meet that guy.
You. Yeah. But thank you for the introduction. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So many great things I want to discuss. You and I met sort of a role reversal, I guess, about sometime last year. You actually interviewed me for a podcast that you were hosting, and one of the things I want to thank you for as I begin this podcast journey. You were one of the people who helped to spark a little light for me with my interest in creating my own podcast. And also, when I reached out and asked you to be on this show, no one responded quicker than you. Your response of absolutely was probably the quickest. So I want to thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate your interview, and I just wanted to give back. I was excited for you during your interview, and you did fantastic. So I wanted to return the favor.
Great. Thanks so much. So we'll get into some of the health and fitness things. I know you really have interest in a lot of different areas from the health and fitness perspective, and we'll sort of get to that as we go down the road. But I wanted to talk to you about your interest. So you've been investing in real estate for about 5 years now, and you've accumulated, over 2,000 units from a general partner position, limited partner position, and also a key partner position. So if you can, just tell me a little bit about how you wound up in your first deal and how does that come to be for you?
All right. So first deal is always a tough one because there was a lot of first deals. So are we talking about a first deal? I think the most important first deal to talk about is that I tried to be a general partner. I tried to own apartments outright. And I tried in Pennsylvania and New Jersey where I live, and I couldn't make numbers work. And I was trying to make numbers work, and I was almost forcing it. So I kept looking around. And anyways, the real miracle that happened that sparked everything, and they talk about it, the art of the first deal. Well, the art of my first deal was actually a passive investment because I could not find investments myself. So I went the alternative that most people do, or maybe it's not anymore. And I went for a passive investment, and it was scary. I mean, when you wire money, it is the scariest thing you'll do. And once you overcome that fear, the world opens up. The ironic thing about wiring money and doing that first deal is that when you have your 401k or you have whatever kind of stocks or bonds, what you don't realize is that money's transferring back and forth. And it's basically the same thing as a wire, and it's a lot more money than you're about to wire. And you have a lot more control when you're wiring money than you do with your 401k and other things. So once you get over that fear, the world opens up. And when I started seeing those distributions coming in, it was amazing. And not only that, I was actually learning through the process of how I would want to be treated as an investor and how I would want to treat other investors by watching these really great general partners, how they ran their business. And so that was the goal. It was to, get stuff myself or go in with other partners and become a general partner. But I started the limited partner route.
Great.
So hopefully that helps you.
Yeah. That's very interesting. And I think, we do hear that from time to time, right? You're talking to people who are looking for their first investment. Sometimes the first thought is, well, I have to have control because I don't want to just give my money to someone else. But then on the other hand, it is a really great opportunity to have experienced investors in your deal with you also, right? So that's that I can see, again, from a corporate world, right? People put their money in their 401k and they just assume it's okay. But when you're looking at it from a perspective of an investment, you're actually wiring that money and pushing the button. And that is definitely a difference of mindset as far as, oh man, I am pushing my money and it's got a bunch of zeros after it, right?
Yep.
Over to someone else. Yeah.
It's scary, especially the first time you do it. You go into a bank until you get things set up. And it's when the banker says to you, are you sure you want to do this?
Right.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, let's go. Because once I have my mind made up, we're doing it, or unless there's something that's really going to stop me. And, but when they tell you that, so I get it from that passive side, and I totally understand it. And I understand that fear.
Yeah.
But once you accomplish that, and it's like, I'm telling you, the world opens up, whether you do it passively or actively. And there was a lot of active stuff too, but yeah.
So from an active perspective, so I noticed I was doing a little bit of research on you, of course, and on your website, you talk a bit about, when you act as a general partner in your opportunities, you also contribute as a limited partner so that you invest with your partner. So when you're acting as a general partner in some of your larger multifamily opportunities, what role do you play? Do you have multiple general partners where you divide the roles? What is your role that you prefer?
Yeah. What role do I prefer? I like to be involved with all aspects of it, the running the property. I'll be honest. I really love the whole game, so whatever jobs and roles I'm given, I do. So that's number one. Number two, the whole premise for being a general partner was helping the limited partners out by making sure that everything was taken care of. And I keep myself to that level by investing passively in the deal. So I want those returns for passive investors, not only for them, but also for me. So it forces me to be on their side, no matter how much of the general partnership I have, whether it's 50%, 10%, 3%, it kind of forces you to roll into that role. And that's what I wanted. I wanted it to see it from both sides. So I know I went off on a tangent.
No, that's great.
Answered your question. So that's really that's really how I wanted it structured. And I always wanted a general partner to see it from the passive investor side. And I think that honestly is my best asset to a general partnership team, is because I am the passive investor. I am the avatar for the investor that they're looking for. And so having me on the team, it just merges both worlds. So when decisions are made, they're like, Iggy, what do you think about this? How do you think we should portray this to the investors? And they might have their idea, and then I have my idea, and then we merge the both of them. I'm not saying my ideas are right. It's just my ideas from a pediatric dentist investing passively into this deal.
Wow, that's really, really cool. So you're focused more on the asset management side. Once the deal's closed, you're involved pretty heavily in the asset management, looking at the numbers and overseeing the property, how it functions.
So I do that, getting involved with investors too. Obviously, because I bring on a bunch of my either friends, dentists, medical professionals, or people that I've met over the years that want to get involved in this kind of stuff. And then asset management has a lot to do with numbers, but it has a lot to do with, who's on the ground and dealing with them and making sure everyone, honestly, what I've learned over life, when people are happy, they work harder.
Yeah. Great.
And it's bringing that happiness to that ground level, because the most important thing are the people that are taking care of your property and taking care of those residents. That is the most important thing. Once that's running, everything's golden.
They really are the face of your organization, of your investment, right? True. I'm sure similarly, in the medical and in the dental field, right? Your office staff, right? That first person that the patient comes in and sees when they sign in, that really is the first impression that you're making on a new patient or a new customer. And in the same aspect, the person who's sitting at the front desk or managing the property and responding to requests has a big amount of control of how your investment or how your business operates, right?
Yes, very, very true. And except when you're a dentist, you are that front person too. Yeah. And that's what, and that's what's kind of interesting about dentistry. Total tangent again, but that's what's interesting about dentistry is you can separate yourself from being that role of like a CEO, CFO, whatever you want to call it. But you are on the ground, and you are at the ground level. And you might be controlling certain things, but you are that face, and that smile is really, really important. And, and that's, I want to relay that to, the residents too of these properties.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure in both of your businesses, I mean, you have a great personality and you have a very welcoming and fun personality. So I'm sure that continues to portray in your business and people see that.
Oh, I hope so. You would think most people would like it, but there's always some that are like, what's wrong with you?
That's great. So do you have any involvement in looking for deals or do you have people who are sort of boots on the ground, people who are bringing deals to you at this point? I mean, once you get past the 2,000 unit mark, I'm sure that deals and opportunities come your way pretty regularly at this point.
What I forgot to tell you is I'm a deal junkie.
Oh, boy.
Yes. Yeah. So I still look for deals, and it's the love for the business.
Yeah.
And I'll never stop doing this. Yeah. The real estate and the multifamily, it's just exciting. When you find a deal, even if you don't close that deal, just dealing with the brokers or dealing with the sellers and the whole negotiation and the whole thing is just exciting. And if you ever get a chance, anyone that's listening to this podcast to do it, you will, I don't know. Everyone's different. I love the hunt. I love getting the text. Hey, I've got this new deal. Take a look at this. I just underwrote it. What do you think? I love that kind of stuff. I get excited by it. I get excited when a broker calls me up and I'm driving back, after a day of dentistry, and they're telling me about this new deal that was just offered to them, or it's about to be placed on the market, or in 6 months it's going to be placed on the market. That kind of stuff just lights me up. and I'll go home. Like I'm very regimented on my time schedule and stuff like that. There's certain things that'll keep me up, and that's one of them.
Wow.
Because and I try to shut it down, but when I'm excited, and it's like game on. So
Yeah,
yes, I'm a deal junkie. So you asked me if I'm still looking for deals. Yeah, I am. I
always,
love it.
always. It sounds like you're
So,
always looking for deals, right? Which is great.
yeah.
Well, that's interesting because I find that I really am attracted to the idea of finding a deal, underwriting a deal, just sort of digging into it. And, I think, at least in this phase of the market, I think most deals, when they are first presented to you, don't necessarily work, right? But
Right.
it's about finding the way to make it work. How can this work, rather than just turning your back and saying, oh, this one doesn't work, right? What can we do creatively to make it work, or what changes can we make, or what can we do in creativity in the offer process to make sure that it happens? And so it's interesting. I do feel that passion with you of finding the deal and just sort of going down that road with it.
Yeah, and getting creative. It
Yeah.
opens up your creative mind. So I love that you're doing that.
So for people in your industry, I've met a few doctors. My wife actually works in a healthcare system, so we have some friends in the medical industry. If they are interested in investing in real estate, but aren't necessarily interested in the idea of finding the deal, managing the asset, understand that there is good potential returns for them, good potential passive, but they really don't want to be involved in the active portion of the industry. What do you recommend, and how can they maybe overcome those fears of becoming part of the first deal?
I think one of the better books that I read is Killing Sacred Cows. Did you read that?
I have not, no, but I'm going to add it to my list right now.
Yeah, and that will help you get over the fear. One of the things that really helps you get over the fear, for me, was finding alternative investments. And so if you're already gung-ho about real estate, yeah, then you're going to be involved. There's no issue. Now it's an issue if you want to be active or passive, and you have to say to yourself, realistically, how much time do you have? Do you want another job? Because if you're active, it is another job. This is not a passive investment.
Sure.
This is an active job. It'll provide you with a lot of financial rewards, a lot of emotional rewards, but it is active, and you're going to be working hard. And when you take the passive route, it's a different story. You can still continue to do your W-2, and then you're getting returns. You're truly getting mailbox money. You don't have to worry about. I mean, you just have to send your money, collect your distributions, link your bank account for the distributions, and then just, if you want to, follow up with the lead syndicator or the lead general partner or one of the general partners to give you, and then you're going to get updates. But that's your choice whether to read them or not. I would suggest you read everything.
Sure.
But a lot of people don't, and a lot of people don't even look, and just goes to their bank account there or to their mailbox, and they're good. So that's one route. The real thing is, if you have not done any passive investments and you're nervous about it, reading the Killing Sacred Cows is a really good book as a first read. After that, you really have to think. For me, the biggest, I had a lot of wake up calls, but it was watching my 401k, and every time that there was a setback in the market. It was late 2018. I'm not talking about 2008. In 2018 was my final, what the hell is going on? There was a 25% drop. And I was every night I was checking the markets, reading about the markets. And I'm like, this is something I have no control over. Zero.
Absolutely.
Zero control. So I said, what happens if I was going to retire right now? What would happen? What would happen if I'd retire right now, end of May 2022? The market's down 20, 25%, depending on, what you invested in. And now you're going to retire at 75% of the value you had in January. So what do you do then? You're going to be pulling from those funds. Why not instead get dividends grow your wealth on the back end and get dividends at the same time, that you could live off of the dividends, and in the background you're gaining wealth. I mean, it's a no-brainer. And on top of it, you have more control. You can contact that syndicator if there is a problem, you know, with the building. You can ask the syndicator, hey, what's going on? Can I help? Because sometimes they'll take help. Even if as a passive investor, even though you're not supposed to get involved, maybe you have access to a contractor. Maybe you have access to whatever. Not only that, the government's not going to bail you out if you're in the stock market. They'll let it drop. They'll let it keep dropping, because then, you know, and you see what's going on with FOMC meetings and everything else. So they're not going to help. They're not going to bail you out. They'll let it drop. And then if you want to buy at the low, you can, and hopefully you catch it. Then, and that's a gambling game again. But with the real estate market, you saw what happened, especially with multifamily. There was a lot of assistance during COVID.
Yeah,
and there's
absolutely.
There's rental assistance. Yeah, it takes a while to go through, but they helped out the residents, because the government doesn't want to be in the business of housing, so they're going to help out that housing business. So I don't think they do, even though Biden said that he's going to try to start making housing. We'll see it. That would be great. If it can happen and he can do it, fantastic. But more than likely, that's not going to happen. And so
it falls into basic necessities too, right? So your basic needs, right? We all need housing. And as you had mentioned, like, the government is not great at being a landlord. You know, have you ever seen government housing projects, right? You know, we're both not too far from Philadelphia. We've seen some of those. So the government's not great at being the landlord. So they incentivize you. You know, we talk about tax write-offs, right? We talk about, like you said, some assistance programs. They incentivize you to take on that responsibility and create quality housing for people to live in, which is a very stark contrast to what happens in the stock market. I'll be completely honest with you. Maybe I'm a little bit of a control freak. So that's probably what brings me to real estate, because I feel like I understand it. And I know that if times are a little bit tough, then I know where I have to cut back a little bit, or if something needs to be repaired, I understand what has to happen to be repaired, right? If the roof is leaking, I know that someone has to fix the roof. I don't know how to fix the roof, but I know that I have to go get someone to fix the roof. Whereas, you know, in the stock market, if the leak, you know, the business is leaking oil or whatever, I have no clue how to fix that. And I have no control of that as a, you know, minor shareholder of that organization. So I just understand it more. I don't know that I necessarily have a passion in the stock market. So I guess when I was brought to real estate, when I first found real estate from an investment perspective in 2008, it just made sense to me. And, you know, we often talk, my wife and I often talk about the idea that in our multifamily units, we're providing good quality housing for people so they can live in decent areas and raise their families and be part of a community and get up and go to work every day and all of those things. And, you know, there's a reward to that side of it too, right? You're helping to create good quality housing for people. So,
I could ditto. That's what I'm going to say to that. Yeah, because that's what it is. I mean, that's what we're trying to do. And it's when you love the business and you love people, and you can marry the two of those together, and that's what you're doing. You're providing. I mean, most of the stuff I do is like basically C to B, sometimes B plus properties, and you're providing that. It's like affordable, good, really good housing for people that
working class America, right? B to C properties are working class America.
And it's like, it's wonderful. And it's when you can change and transform these apartments, it's just amazing what you can do for the residents there.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you. So I want to move over a little bit to your exercise and health enthusiasm. When you and I spoke before, one of the things I remember about our last conversation, and you may not remember this, but you jumped on and said, you jumped on just in time to start the interview, and you said, I had to jump on the bike for like 20 minutes. I just had to burn some energy before we get on. So we're speaking now. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you could see that Iggy's in his car right now. But before we jumped on, I said, I know you're always up to something. So what are you up to? So right now it's, we started this at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning. So tell us a little bit about what you did before we met up.
All right. So, well, what I do, I always do a morning routine if we want to go deep into it. And
sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So no matter what. So I try to wake up around 4:30-ish in the morning, and I'll set an alarm because I like to wake up early because those are my best days, whether that's up here or it's just when things magically happen. More things happen in the morning. And so I wake up in the morning, I do some stretching, light workout and stuff like that. But my plan today at 5:30 was to drive down to the Jersey Shore from Pennsylvania so I could go surfing. The waves were, they're small here, but when you sometimes get lucky and they're 2 to 3 feet. I know 2 to 3 feet here is not like when I'm on the West Coast, but they're 2 to 3 feet. There's something to ride in it. And it gives me, I don't know, this calmness, this coolness, and this sense of connection when I'm in the ocean. So that's what I did this morning. That was my morning workout, and I'll probably jump in the water as I still had the bottom half of my wetsuit on. Top half, I kind of put a shirt on so I'd look decent for you. but that was my morning. I try to get down here earlier, but sometimes there's car accidents and stuff like that block you.
So what was the temperature like? Was it refreshing? I mean,
yes, it's refreshing. That's a good way of putting it. It's refreshing. But I'm wearing a full wetsuit, so you don't really feel it. It's probably close to 60 though.
Is it? Okay.
The fact is it's now we're at the end of May. This is it. Realistically, I could try doing it without a wetsuit, but then it's, it's 20 minutes you're in there and then you're really shivering. Yeah.
So I'm actually, and part of the reason I'm asking is a little selfishly, I'm actually doing a 1 mile open water swim next weekend, and people who are doing it keep talking about, oh, the water temperature is so cold. The water temperature is so cold. And I haven't been in the open water since the end of last summer. So I'm just wondering, has it warmed up enough for, I guess a mile swim will probably take me around 50 minutes. I'm not necessarily the fastest. So
you want to, if they let you wear a wetsuit,
they will. Yeah.
Faster. So you wear a wetsuit unless is it one of those lakes or is it in the ocean?
It's in the bay at the Jersey Shore. So it's Wildwood Crest.
Okay. Yeah. Then you're going to be wearing a wetsuit and you're probably 60.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right.
If you're lucky. If you're lucky, 60.
So tell us a little bit about, so I know that you've done some triathlons in the past. You've done some, track cycling. What is your go-to event that you like to prepare for? What types of events? I know you participated in many different events over the year. What really gets you going of like, oh man, I'm doing this track cycling event or, water event, or what really does it for you?
So I've learned in life that sometimes less is more. And so with all those endurance exercises, I like to still bike and I like to do things, but now I try to limit it to 20 minutes ish, like you heard, at max. And the reason really is now as I'm getting a little bit older, I'm looking for longevity. And so what gets me going, honestly, exercise wise, is surfing. And so when I go out to California, when those waves are pumping and you're out there and it's, close to 8-10 feet, it's scary. And it's that. And when you take off, you are connected to that ocean and to that wave. And it's kind of like life. It's like you're riding the wave. Like you have some control, but very little. Yeah. And you now become the artist that can shape part of the wave, but the wave is really the art. And it's just like one of those cool things, and it's hard. It's really hard, and it's hard to get really, really good. And that's what I like. And
a lot of core endurance there, correct?
Yeah, it was really, I really fell out of biking at the end. It was like perfect timing. October 2019, I went to my last world championship. and I didn't even make it out of the qualifying round. And I sat there. It was actually in the floor of the stadium and then back into the apartment. And I was away from my family. It was in England. And I was like, what the hell am I doing? I literally was training like 2 hours a day, being a dentist, trying to invest in this real estate stuff. There was so much going on. And I had to focus on getting 8 hours of sleep. And I was spending like no time with my family. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why am I trying to be like basically a semi-professional cyclist? And it made no sense. And I knew you needed a fair amount of training. I couldn't come. I mean, at 20 minutes a day now, I could be good, but I'm not going to be able to compete against them. And
Sure.
I'm like, who is this benefiting? Like someone that's watching me and is cheering me on, that's making them happy for a brief moment. But who in the big picture does this benefit? And I was like, not too many people. So I became basically less selfish. I mean, that sport is a very selfish sport. So I still appreciate everything I did with the cycling, and I love bikes and I love the whole thing. But spending that much time and being that good and turning into a different person, because you have to be,
Sure.
and to be that good. And it's no longer me. I appreciate who I was, but it's no longer me. So if you ask me, yeah, I would love to jump into a criterium or a track race once in a while. And because it's exciting being, shoulder to shoulder with somebody, and then you take off. And I love that adrenaline. Surfing's way better though.
Okay.
So there
Great.
you go.
Great. Well, I have not surfed. So
Yeah.
I
You're so
really
close. You can come down here. I'll take you surfing.
absolutely. We should do that. I would love to
Yeah.
do that. I would absolutely love it. As long as you don't laugh.
But I will not laugh. And if we laugh, it's good. I laugh at myself when I fall too.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Great. Great. So I appreciate everything that you've said and all of your contributions. Want to get into the final 3 questions that I'm asking all of my guests. So for you, in your business, in your investing, and really just in life, I know you have 2 children that you provide, I'm sure, provide excellent value to their lives. What is your definition of success?
That is a freaking great question. And I think about I think about this a lot. And I can tell you my most successful days are when I am connected to my family and I inspire 3 people.
Wow.
Those are my most successful days. And when I'm not thinking about myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's those 3 things that are really empowering. And that's what I try to do. And
That's awesome.
whether I inspire someone at the coffee shop that I'll go to later, and give them a smile and I perk up their day, or the checkout. I mean, that's one person, and that's all that it takes to make a difference. So that's a success for me. I used to think it was a monetary. Help me out here. A
Monetary?
financial thing. Monetary. Yeah, I can't even talk. But it's not. It's not, because you could take all that away and you could still do those other things. And that's
great. I love hearing you say that. One of my mentors in the last year said that every day he tries to think of, who have I provided value to today? And I think that sort of falls in the same line of what you're saying, right? Can I help someone else in some way, right? And you're right, it's not just monetary. It could be a smile that brightens their day. Could be a little bit of assistance that they didn't even know they needed. So really, really cool. I love that answer.
Thank you.
For someone who's new to investing, or even just learning about focusing on their goals or their path to success, you recommended the Killing Sacred Cows. Can you give them a different book recommendation, maybe another book recommendation for someone who's new to this?
Well, Killing Sacred Cows is really, really good. It's really, you need to change your mindset. I'm not the same person as, like I told you, that I was last year. And I'm not the same person that I was the year before, because I'm constantly trying to grow, hopefully becoming a better human. only time will tell us if that's the case. But I really like Brendan Bouchard's stuff and his high performance coaching or high performance. I forgot what the exact name of it, the book is.
Okay.
But his books and his podcast, you need that mindset and you need optimism. And it really pushes you forward. So following like a high performance coaching, I'm not saying you need to sign up for something. And I'm just saying like this is more like a Tony Robbins, Brendan Bouchard.
Getting your mind right. Yeah.
Is so key, because that's the hardest part, because you're going to get setbacks, and feeding off of energy on your team, like whatever team that is, whether it's your family or other team members. Right now, I mean, you see me as all optimistic. I'm not always optimistic.
Sure.
I mean, and so when I'm not, I try to work with team members that can lift up my spirits. And that's why I also set up Zoom calls. It's funny because you mentioned this, because we were talking about this the other day, but seeing other people's faces, that I feed off of. I'm like a battery. And so when I see energy, I feed off of it and I get more enthusiastic and I stay away. The most important thing, whether it's family members, friends, they're going to scare the living shit out of you. And seriously, and about real estate, about life, about everything. And don't be scared. Just take it as an idea.
Yeah.
And that's what I do is try to take it as an idea, because what's going to happen is, especially as a physician, you're going to either ask other physicians and they're going to tell you real estate's so risky, or but not understanding the big pieces.
Yeah.
And just saying that it's risky because they got hurt in 2007 and 8, 9. Yeah, those years.
Yeah. Well, and interestingly enough on that is that not only the people who have had certain amount of, failures or injuries along the way, giving you that feedback, but I find that oftentimes that feedback comes from people who have never even tried it. Right. So oftentimes it's like, oh, real estate's so risky. Why would you ever do that? And, one of the things that I've been focusing on a lot lately is making sure that the feedback that I'm receiving and the advice that I'm receiving is from people who have already done what I want to do, because there's plenty of free feedback, right? There's plenty of free opinions, but it's about deciding where they come from.
Yes.
Awesome. So before we get into the final question, I just want to ask, how can we support you? How can people get in touch with you, or how can people support you in your endeavors? Oh,
well, that's a nice question. It's more, how can I support you? And so I guess by being here, I mean, you can, if you want to reach out to me, I am a dentist by trade who's investing in multifamily real estate. So you can either reach out to me, you can go to the website prostoic.com. It's prostoig.com, or you can email me at dsi@prostoic.com. And that's the best way. And just, the best way to support me is just give back to society, be a great citizen. When someone's aggressive behind you driving, just pull over, don't get upset, be happy. And that's that is the best thing. And that's the best thing we can give back is to bring, love to the world. I know I'm going to sound very hippie-ish. Maybe that's because I just went surfing. That's one of the powers of the sport that I love.
Yeah.
Is that it calms me. But really, if we just give love to each other, it makes a huge difference. And that's the best thing you can do for me, is give love to somebody else.
Well, that's great. Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking your time out on a Saturday morning to interview with me and to have this conversation. It really means a lot to me. I appreciate your friendship. And you will absolutely hear from me about going surfing, because I'm going to take you up on that offer. I've been itching to try it, and now I have an opportunity to do that. So one final question before we wrap up here. If you could think back to yourself as a young boy, young Iggy, age 10 to 12, knowing what you know now, you've experienced a lot of life, and several different facets, right? So you've experienced your education journey and your dental journey and real estate, and also sports, right? You've been involved in competitive sports. What are 3 pieces of advice that you would give to yourself just to help guide you towards success?
The number one, don't be scared to take chances and take big risks. Big risks. Don't be scared to fail. That would be huge.
Yeah.
And then be kind to yourself. Yeah, those would be the 3. Be kind to yourself is the most important thing, because we are our own worst enemies. And I think that to today, I am very critical of myself. And that is an important thing. And laugh at yourself. I'm giving you more things.
That's
but
great.
Those are things. And I'll laugh at myself. And it's wonderful. You know, it's the best thing you can do is, laughing at yourself, or don't take yourself too seriously.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
I'm giving
That's
a whole
awesome.
bunch of things.
I
would
take,
tell myself.
We'll take them all. Yeah.
You can take the top 3. You can take the top 3 that you like.
I like them all. I'm going to keep them all.
There you go.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Iggy. David Iglewicz, prostoic.com is a great way to reach out to him. I really appreciate your time. Thanks again for checking out the Healthy Investor Podcast, and make it a great day. Thanks so much for joining me on the Healthy Investor Podcast. Check out the show notes for more information about connecting with our guest. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please head on over to iTunes and leave a positive rating and review. It would mean the world to me. I'm grateful for your support, and I wish you an abundance of success on your journey to healthy investments and a healthy life.